Hey crafters, Leo with the Dreaming Tree, and welcome to the assembly video for our Spring Reverie shadow box. It's been a while since we've done some floral stuff, and we have a nice mix of, well, all sorts of things actually. And we're going to begin by taking a look at, well, this is going to be a 9-inch shadow box. Okay, and one of the things that you're going to need to do and decide to do is cut out a little backing for your shadow box. We opted to go with a very subtle pattern that is just slightly visible. And you'll notice that we have a series of little markers on this, and that's to help you position essentially, this little guy here. Okay, so we have 2 layers of greenery, and it's all sort of connected with the exception of this little fella here, which will tuck into the actual display once everything's said and done. But for now, what we want to do is start with this layer here. This is going to be the backmost layer. One of them anyway. And what we're going to do is just kind of give the little leaves here a little bit of dimension. So what I'm going to do is take and, using a dowel, just place each of the little leaves between my finger and the dowel, lift up the leaf about 45 degrees, or angle it 45 degrees, and then just run your dowel through. And you can see how it sort of lifts it up a little bit. And that's all we're really trying to do here. Okay. And with these little guys here, we can do the same thing. You may want to grab a thinner dowel. Now just be careful not to rip the little stem portion of the leaf as you run your dowel through it. I've done that in the past, and that's not fun because you have to recut things. And all we're trying to do is add a little bit of dimension to this backing so it's not so flat. Okay. Now with this little guy here, you can even take and just kind of curl this up, the very tips of it. And you can see how that kind of adds some nice interest to this greenery by helping the light sort of play with it by adding interesting shadows and highlights. Okay, just going to do the rest of these little petals, these little leaves, I should say. It's early, and I didn't make coffee today, so I might be struggling here to get my words, at least for a minute. Now take a look, and you see that there's a little T that's cut into this, and it should be right side up. And that indicates the correct orientation for it. Okay, now we have some larger leaves here. I'm going to take and lift these up. I love the veining on these using just a simple cut. It's really cool. Okay, so we'll lift these up as well. And just very carefully grab and lift these up. Now obviously inking is something that I highly suggest throughout this project. Most of it is just the typical inking that I do, and once we get there, I'll kind of show you a few little tips and tricks to help you along the way here. So this is going to go right on top of this one, okay, and you can simply just take and glue this right onto it. Hopefully my glue behaves today. And you can see that you can really see the shape. Just line it up with that previous layer. Try to get it on there as accurately as you can. There we go, and you can already see it's kind of coming to life. Okay, next, what we're going to do, we're going to take the backing of this, and you can kind of see, for example, the little markers there, the very bottoms of these leaves are going to pop right in there, and then you can see how the rest of them sort of fall into place in various locations. Okay, so that is how we're going to glue that down, and we do the same thing here. Just get our glue on the back of this. Do not put any on the leaves. We want the leaves to be pretty much free floating. I don't need a ton of glue on this either. Okay, using that little section there as my initial guide. for placement. And there we go. Kind of look to there, and the rest of it just naturally falls into place. Okay, there we go. Okay, and to assemble this one, we're going to start with the largest flower, or largest set of petals, and then kind of build up. We'll go 3 and then 2. So for this one here, all we're going to do is take and place the dowel at the base of each petal, lift it up about 45 degrees, and just run that dowel through. We want to just slightly curve the petals, especially at the edge. Okay, and the next layer we're going to do the same thing initially, just curve them up, and then you can take and just kind of curl just the tips either up or down. Bring them in or down, doesn't matter. You can mix it up. Okay, kind of bring that in a little bit. And all we're going to do here is take and apply a little bit of glue right to that little center hole. We're going to take this next layer and pop it right on there, match up the little holes in the center, and you want to offset the petals so that they're not sitting right on top of each other, like so. And that just leaves 2 more. So let's take these and do the same thing, just kind of curl them up. I'm going to take a thinner dowel here and just curl in the tips a little bit. Maybe I'll curl this one out just to kind of change it up a little bit. And you can see here, naturally we want this one to go right there. Just like that. Okay, now once we have them all together, you can take and lift this up. Now, once we actually have all of the flowers in place, we can go in and kind of finesse all of the petals and pull them out, kind of fluff them up a little bit, just to, you know, bring them all to life. Right now, as we're building and then placing things onto our main frame, I'm not overly concerned about that at the moment. Okay, and then we have the little stamen piece. What you can do is just kind of twirl this between your fingers just to lift them up ever so slightly. Okay, just bring them up a tiny bit. Do that to all 3. You still need to fit that little green piece in the center, so you don't want to raise them up too much, but you don't want them to be all that flat. And then we're going to take and glue these all together using that little circular cutout in the center as our guide, and we're going to offset these as much as possible to make it look as full as possible. There we go. Okay. So again, just taking a tiny little bit of glue in there. Grab the next set, offset it. Now keep in mind we've got 1 more layer to put on there, so try to group it in a way, or offset it in a way where you leave a little bit of room for that last layer, so that each little individual stamen is visible. That looks pretty good. Okay, take and apply a little bit of glue in the center. Take the green piece here, pop that right in the middle. There we go. Got a little bit of glue on that. It's on my finger. Just rub that off. And then take and apply some glue in the center of your flower. And again, we can always take and kind of fluff these little stamen up later on. Pop that right in the middle. And then you can use a dowel to push that down. That way you don't risk flattening the stamen even more. You can use a dowel to kind of lift them up a little bit as well. Okay, so there's our first little flower. Okay, so here's how I want you to arrange your dahlia. You're going to have, I'll count these out in a minute, but a series of petals that are all the same size. We'll count them out here. We've got 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, and 9. Okay, these have no identifiers on them and no score marks. There's 9, they're all the same size. Then we have one with a number 1 and a series of score lines here. There's 2 number 2s with identifiers and score lines. And there's 2 number 3s with identifiers and score lines. And then we go from the next smallest to the ultimate smallest, okay? And we're gonna build from the bottom up. We're gonna grab, we'll put these off to the side. We're gonna use those last. We're gonna start with these. And the idea here is to take and kind of cup each of the little petals on this as we build our way up. Okay, so what I'm doing is I'm taking each of the petals, and actually you might want to try to find a dowel that's a little bit thinner than a 3/8 inch dowel, just so that we can get a nice cupping on each of these petals. And we're just literally going to do this, well, how many petals are there? Times 9. Just to give them some nice dimension. They're not going to look as good completely flat. So we definitely want to take our time and do this. I'm going to use the thinner part of my, this is a paintbrush actually. Just so happens that it has the perfect diameter for this. It's a little slippery. I'll go back and do the rest of these real quick. Okay, so there's one. And I'm not overly concerned about lifting them up or anything. And you can see that I kind of had some fun with the inking on this. Just went kind of random, just to change it up. On some of these I inked in the center, on some I inked around the perimeter. Honestly, with the training that we're doing right now and all the layering, some, if not most, of the inking may not be overly visible, but it will add something to it. It just may not, you know, the work that you put in may not amount to as much as you would expect, or to have as much of an impact as you would expect. Okay, so we're just gonna take and apply some glue. And you could do this, you know, more in a, I guess, assembly line method where you go through and do all your inking and then all your shaping and then all your gluing. That's fine. I'm just showing you here what we're doing, step 1. And obviously you want to offset the petals so that, again, each one is visible. Otherwise it's kind of pointless just to stack them right on top of each other, right? Okay, so we're just going to go through here. I'm going to get systematic about this and just do the shaping first. The shaping for this first set of 9 is going to be the same. And then once we get to the other ones with the little score marks, things will end up being a little different. Okay. There we go. Just going to start doing this here. Got up nice and early this morning to finish off the last video in the bundle so we can get a new bundle out for you guys. Actually had a text message from a friend slash customer slash crafter asking if we're doing a spring release, and I think you guys pretty much know our schedule just as well as we do nowadays as far as what you can anticipate being released. So that's good. I think you'll be very pleased with this release. Got a lot of beautiful stuff here, a lot of stuff to keep you busy, making beautiful things, especially for spring. I know that our friends in Australia are now heading into fall. I'm not exactly sure what that means. I'm not completely familiar with their climate. I always picture it as just super hot with 10-foot spiders and kangaroos that chase people. But again, it's my skewed view of the world, I guess. I'm sure the temperatures and climate vary a lot, but I did read somewhere that most of the population lives in a very small part of Australia. And we have some people in New Zealand as well. And I'm trying to think of where else the climate might be a little bit different than what we have here. Of course, you know, we've had 80-degree days already, and then I wake up this morning and we have frost again, and we'll continue to have frost probably for another month, believe it or not. Out here, Mother's Day, Sunday, is typically the weekend that you're allowed to plant stuff in your garden outside without having to worry about frost. Although it has happened before, after Mother's Day, of course. The weather here in the Midwest is relatively unpredictable. I think it has something to do with the fact that we live near the biggest body of fresh water on the planet. Might have something to do with it. And I can tell that my thumb is cramping up a little bit here, or my hand is. So you may need to kind of give yourself a break as you go through this. There we go. And the last one here for now. The sections here with the little score marks, we're actually going to take and like pinch those together. And that's going to kind of change the way that the petals stand up mostly, is what it's going to do for us. All right, so that's good. Now we'll just go ahead and start stacking. Okay, and as I mentioned, just dots of glue. That was more than a dot, but that's okay. And we're just offsetting petals here. Try to be as consistent as possible. And you don't need a ton of glue. There we go. That one might be a tiny bit off, but once we get all of the layers in place, it'll be just fine. Take a look at the overall shape. Make sure you're not going up too high or too low with each one. Just do your very best. That is not staying in place. I'm gonna use a little dowel to push that down real quick. Okay, so far so good. You may want to slow down just a tad, just to ensure that you are in fact getting each layer to grip and hold onto the previous. There we go. We'll give that a nice little push. And again, we can take and kind of flare these up a little bit, create a little extra separation between the layers. Once we have everything in place, right now it's kind of pointless because we're just constantly smushing everything down anyway. So it's kind of counterproductive to have to do that right now. This is going to be a nice, beautiful, full looking flower. There we go. Okay, so that base layer is actually, it's pretty good as far as the separation goes. These next sections, once we get everything pinched, it's going to really help it sort of fill out. Pop that in there. Get the next one. Again, just rotating ever so slightly to create that staggering effect. On our flower here. Okay, looking good. You can use hot glue if you want. Actually, the old hot glue gun that I had, the rechargeable battery on it wore out, so I ended up getting one of these guys. And this one you actually plug in, there's no battery, it heats up while it's on this little dock. Let's see if I can show you. And then you just take it off when you want to use it. It stays hot, and you just put it back on to keep warming it up. So it's got the best of both worlds. And if you want to use it plugged in, you can. So it's pretty cool, I think, anyway. There we go. I'll start warming that up for later. Okay, next, I'm going to grab piece number 1 here. And the idea here is to take and pinch right at the base where the score lines are, okay? So just kind of work that little area there where you have the score mark, and then just pinch it right where the score marks are. Not too much at the base. You don't want it to rip off. You want it to look kind of like that. Okay, and we'll have to just go around the horn here. Just very gently pinch right in that area. I'm using my thumb on one side, my middle finger on the other, and then my pointer finger to kind of push down to help create that little valley. Okay, and that's it. And this is where things start to change a little bit as far as how this flower looks. Okay, so I went ahead and I pinched petals, the section 1, and got that glued into the center. Again, staggering the petals. Okay, I did the same thing with the ones labeled 2. Now we're on 3. We're gonna do the same thing. This is gonna get a little more difficult just because, well, the petals are tiny, smaller, not tiny, not quite. Okay, but we're gonna do our best to get those pinched. We got 2 more to pinch, and then I promise you the rest of this will not involve any more pinching or anything that's going to aggravate any arthritis that you may have in your hand. Okay, just get that nice and pinched. And this is section 3. Section 2 is already glued in. I already pinched those and glued them in. You're going to do the same thing. And then we just have 3 sets of petals remaining. The last one is going to require a little bit of hot glue, so you definitely want to get your hot glue gun kicking right now. Get it warmed up, because that center petal, we're going to try to kind of close it up. Okay, so almost done with this one. Be careful not to rip the petal off. Otherwise you're going to be recutting. And just do your best to get that nice and pinched. Now what might help too is taking and maybe just kind of, well, pressing against the little score marks to help the process of getting the pinch going. I'm going to kind of cup this a little bit and raise these up. Kind of awkward in my hand here. There we go, that's good. Okay, throw a little bit of glue in there. And this is section 3. I already have 2 in there. I did that off camera. Grab your dowel to help you push it in there. Make sure those petals are staggered. There we go. You can see how it's just naturally forming this sort of cone. I guess this is considered a cone flower. I think it is. Okay, let that set. We'll do the last one here. What might help is just kind of taking and, well, it actually would probably help if I grab a little mouse pad. I've got a large one. This is going to come in handy in a little bit here as well. You can take and just kind of crease that a little bit with the tip of a hibachi. And that should make it a lot easier to at least get it going as far as the folding goes. We're kind of forcing it into that shape a little bit without having to do it with our fingers. Let's see how well that worked. Yeah, it kind of helped a little bit. Maybe not as much as I would have hoped, but yeah, definitely helped. Just got to get your fingers in there. It helps to lift each petal up as you go. Kind of move it away from the from its neighbors so that you can pinch it a little more easily. There we go. Almost done. Four more to go. Give that a nice tight pinch. There we go. Okay. Bring them up a tiny bit. I'll move this out of the way for now. Get that glue in the center. Okay, and drop this in. Just going to hold it by one petal. And do your best to stagger that. Find that previous layer. Get that staggered, offset, whatever you want to call it. Then push down with a dowel. There we go. Looking good. Hot glue might be, again, a better option if you're more comfortable with hot glue at this point. There we go. Okay. All right, so we've got 3 sets of petals left here. I'll move this out of the way. And all we're doing with these is just literally curling them up. Okay. And you can take a little hibachi, probably the thin end of it, and just kind of cup the petals a little bit, especially out at the tip. Try not to crease it too much. I'll try the other end actually. That might be a little more uniform and consistent. There we go. Just want to kind of keep that continuity on the petals from start to finish, even though these are a little bit smaller. There we go. Okay. Go ahead and kind of bring the petals in towards each other like this. Pop a little bit of glue in there, and do your best to, again, stagger the petals, offset them. See how that looks. Looks pretty good. And I think I can probably, that one's a little too big. Let me grab this little section here. And just push that down. There we go. Okay, got one more here. And I'm going to cup these as well. This is getting even smaller now. So do your best. Okay, kind of getting into the meditation zone here. And let's cup these up like so. And let's get these ready to go. Throw a little bit of glue in there. Grab it by one of the petals. Try to offset. There we go. Give that a little wiggle. Okay. Looking good. Again, we can always take and just kind of finesse any little petal that may seem out of place if necessary. Okay. For the last one here, we're going to bring these all up in as far as they'll go. Okay, and I do want to cup these as well. So we'll take our little hibachi. We'll take the fine tip end and use that to really cup these as far as you can. Bring them in as much as possible. There we go, that was better. Okay, and what I'm going to do here is kind of hold it closed. You've got petals on top of petals, and that's okay. Grab your hot glue gun and just throw a little bit of hot glue. Make sure this is coming out. Just find little overlap areas on the petals. And just throw a little bit of hot glue. Yep, and just find where the two little petals come together and just kind of add some hot glue right on top where the two sections meet. And just keep it at the base. That way once we pop it in there, it won't be visible from the top, but it should do enough to hold it all in place. Okay. Got that. And now actually, if the hot glue is still hot, just pop it right in there. And there you go. Okay, so that's kind of how you keep that center one and shape that center one. Now what we can do also, now that we have everything in place, you can take a little hibachi and just kind of create some separation between these little inner petals. So I went through and I did some inking on these rolled roses. Using my little brush, I've got a nice pink color here, and for this outer ring, it's very easy just to go around and hit that outer ring with a little bit of ink. Okay, now as you get towards the middle, it gets a little trickier, but I kind of figured out a little tip for that. I'll share it with you here in a second once we get there. Okay, that Dahlia that we just put together, I essentially did the same thing. And again, sometimes I hit the outer petals, sometimes I started from the inside and worked my way out. And as I mentioned, I don't know that it really did as much as I had hoped, but I don't have one without ink to show a side by side. I know it did something, but again, I'm not sure that the work that was put into it made all that much of a difference. I think the thicker and more layers you have in a flower, I think the more aggressive you need to be with your inking for it to really show up. Okay, so here we're getting close to getting into that inner ring, and I'll show you what I did, because my concern was if I'm trying to ink here, I'm also going to get ink there. So how do you solve that? Well, I'll show you in a second. I'm kind of moving it onto untouched sections of this so I can see how much ink I'm actually, it's actually spitting out. So here's what I did. I actually just took this and put that section that I finished underneath, because right now if it was not there, I'd be getting ink all over it. And as you go around the horn here, all you kind of have to do is rotate this thing and hide more of it, like this. Just keep the sections visible that you need to ink, while the rest of it stays underneath your little piece of paper that you're inking on. Okay, I don't know if you guys have ever made rolled flowers. Pretty straightforward. You're literally just rolling them around each other, or themselves, I should say. And they just happen to come out looking awesome. Who would have thought? Okay, I'm just going to keep rotating this and working my way around. These brushes are great. You could technically use the other method that I use with the felt applicator. I think this just makes it go a little bit quicker. And with this, you will get a sort of softer end result, which is kind of what I was going for. I didn't want it to be too powerful. And I really do think that you could probably not even do any inking with these and it would still turn out nice, but I always like to add ink. Let's go down here, finish this off. And then we just have we have a dahlia that we need to assemble, and then there's a rose. And we can have fun putting everything in place, getting it in our shadow box. It's gonna look great. It's a nice little gift. Could be a gift for a wedding, housewarming gift, Mother's Day, whatever. Everyone loves flowers. And if you are compelled to do so, you can take and even get some vinyl, put a little caption on there, or the person's last name, or home sweet home, whatever it may be. Almost done here. And the harder you push, the more you're going to apply, obviously. And just kind of rotating this as I go. Keep the parts that I've already inked underneath. Make everything nice and uniform. And then before we start rolling this, I do want to train the paper a little bit just to loosen up those fibers, make it roll a lot easier so we don't get any unsightly creases or anything like that. Okay, there we go. That works. We'll put that away for now. Okay, so go ahead and take your dowel, and I'm going to roll this so that I have my texture out like this. Okay, so that means that I'm gonna train it like this. I'm lifting it up about 90 degrees, just running it through. And just be very gentle with this so that you don't rip it. We've got plenty of, there's plenty of paper holding everything together there at the base, but still, you never know. Okay, so let's get going on the rolled roses. And these are relatively simple. As I mentioned, I want my texture on the outside like this. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to begin by just slightly, I'm going to use a thicker dowel here. I'm going to place the entire rolled flower between my fingers and a dowel, lift it up about 45 degrees and just run it through just to kind of start getting it, well, angled a little bit, loosening up the fibers just to make it roll a lot easier. All the way down to the end. Okay. And then what we're going to do, we're going to start at the very end here. Okay. And again, I want my texture on the outside. Find this dowel is a little bit too thick. This is a 1/4 inch dowel. And this is probably too thin. So try to find something in the middle. Just so happens that I'm using my little paintbrush here, and what we're going to do is just literally roll this around itself. Try to make sure that the bottom of it stays in line with itself. I'll show you what I mean here in a second. You want to just make sure that this very bottom here stays on top of itself, lined up as accurately as possible as you're rolling it. Well, the first few rolls may be a little difficult, but then as you get going, it'll get easier. And just make sure you keep that lined up and just roll. And then once we get it all rolled, there's a little circle at the very end that we're going to take and glue everything to. to kind of hold its shape and hold everything in place. And the diameter of that circle is essentially is how much we're going to kind of, when we release this and kind of let it loose, that is going to help us kind of determine the size that we need it at. And occasionally as you're rolling here, I'm going to take this off now. I don't think I need it anymore. As you're rolling, you may want to kind of squeeze it together a little bit just to make sure that we're keeping everything in line. And this gets a little bit easier as you go. There we go. I actually saw, I don't know where I saw this. I saw it was a crafter that hooked up a drill to what looked like maybe a hairpin or something. And she was using the drill to do this like super fast. I don't know how that would work without ripping things, but it looked pretty cool. I don't know. Okay, just going through here. Keep on rolling all the way up to the end. Try to keep it relatively tight. Okay, now here we are towards the end, and that is just going to go on like that. Now you can see that my circle is a little bit too big because I can see the little edge of it. So I'm going to go ahead and just release this a little bit until it fits on that little circle. And there we go. Just like that. So now, kind of keep holding it. Take that last little section off, and let's fire up the hot glue. And what we're going to do is apply the hot glue to the bottom of this. Try to get all those petals covered. And then we're literally just going to close it up with that little circular piece. Just pop that right on there. Just like that. And there is our rolled rose. And then once we have that, the hot glue should take almost instantly. And what you can do then is take and kind of curl the outer petals out a little bit. You can work your way in a little bit too. I creased that one too much. I don't like that. Let me see if I can clean that up a little bit. There we go. I'm going to take the outer layers here and just flare them out just a little bit. And then as you work your way in, maybe flare them out less and less. And there you have your beautiful rose. And I think we'll just do one more. You can handle one off camera. I think you'll be fine. But like I said, essentially, the most important thing is just to make sure that when you release it, that it fits onto that little circular part that's provided at the very end. Okay, so let's start again here. And we'll take this and just start wrapping it. Try to keep it pretty tight initially. Roll it onto itself. Try to keep that line here at the bottom, the base of it, on top of itself as accurately as possible. If you're off a tiny bit, that's okay. Once we get the initial part of it rolled, we can always kind of push it back into place. I think that's good. And now just kind of holding it from both ends and gently rolling. Rolling, rolling, rolling. And there you have it. So once this one's done, you're gonna have one more to do. And then I think we're gonna start working on the peony. Okay. Well, I told you there wasn't going to be any more cramping, but I think I'm feeling it. But I also did a lot of work outside last week and really stressed the muscles in my hand a lot, so maybe that's why I'm feeling it. There we go. Looking good. Just keep it nice and uniform. Okay, here we go. Bring that last petal in. Get it nice and tight. Fold that down. You can see that that circle was way too big. So again, just going to gently release it until it covers it up. And I think that's pretty good there. I think, oh, here we go. Maybe a little more. There we go, okay. And then just hold it, lift off the bottom. You can kind of fold it away if you want to. I'm gonna tighten that just a tad. Grab your hot glue. Perfect. That circle should be, you can see the outer little set of petals should just barely be on the outside of that circle. And there is your other one. Okay, so again, just go through here and take these outer petals and flare them out just a tad. The inner ones can stay where they are. I don't think you really need to go too far in. You want it to be pretty compact. Get in there. There we go. Just create some separation, a little bit of interest by curling them back. You can go in as far as you want. There we go. And there is your next little rolled rose. And I'm just taking a look at it, making sure everything looks even. And if you want to, kind of pull a few more of them out just to balance out the size and the shape. Totally fine. There we go. Okay, so here's what we have so far. Now these are not completely arranged yet, but we're getting there. Okay, so we're going to start working on our peony, and I do have these little shaping tools. You may be, if you don't have them, you may be able to get away with not using it. I think it'll be okay, but I mean, if you make flowers regularly, you should have something like this. This is a little mouse pad, and the way that this flower is set up is that there's two colors. One's a lighter pink, one's a darker pink. The lighter pink's gonna go on the inside. They are numbered 1 through, in this case, this one is 7. The 4 is 4 little dashes in the shape of a square, and then the 5 is a square with a 1, the 6 is a square with a 2, 7 is a square with a 3, and the larger number is the larger petal that's gonna go on the bottom, okay? And then we're gonna work our way up to number 1. And the way that I was doing this, I just kind of did this off camera, I did one of them here. I'll grab this one here. The first thing you want to do, you don't need to roll this whole thing with that little tool. What I'm going to do is take and place the base of the petal between my finger and the dowel, lift it up about 45 degrees, and run it through to get it to curl initially. And then really what we're trying to do here is get the outer edges to kind of curl and cup in as well. So we don't need to really focus too much effort anywhere here. What I'm doing here is I'm taking this big ball and I'm just pressing along the outside part, especially up towards the very tip, okay? And even up here, kind of pulling it down towards me. And then you can do little circles there too to kind of cup the entire petal. Okay, so it's kind of like creating a little cup like that. Okay, so just do that around the perimeter, just to kind of cup it in. I'm going to cup the tips as well. You don't really need to do the center of it. And doing this might crease the paper a little bit, but there's not much you can do. I know that some of you have mentioned that doing like a fine mist of water sometimes helps, but I find that that often leads to problems when I try it, so I stay away from it. I think doing this is just fine. Just kind of cupping the petal. Especially the tips. You want it just to kind of, I guess I just kind of creating something like that. There we go. You can see as I do that, the petal just kind of naturally wants to stand up, which is cool. Okay, that one's done. All right, so again, I have piece 7. This is piece 6. And again, we're gonna just kind of join these together using the little center as our guide. And of course, we want to offset the petals. Okay. So I'm gonna do that. Just start adding my glue. And of course, my bottle dried out. At least the tip of it did. Okay, this is piece 7. Let's get this off the black mat. Take piece 8, pop it right in there. You want to stagger it and use that little hole in the center to help you with the placement. Make sure you get that lined up as accurately as you can. I wouldn't worry about creating separation at this point. Got a lot of layers to go here. Okay, now we're going to find piece number 5. And again, train the petals up. And then grab your little and just work your way, especially around the outside edge. Get those petals to cup in, especially around the perimeter. You want to be just slightly inside of the edge. Kind of work your way in. Trying to get those petals to kind of cup in. I know I've said that a million times, and that's all we're really doing. Okay. And don't worry about the creases. It'll look nice. It'll make it look more natural. You know, petals aren't all that flawless in nature unless you've got them in a greenhouse in a perfect environment. So that's fine. There we go. That looks good. Get your glue on that layer. Again, don't forget to stagger the petals. And use that little hole in the center as your guide. If it starts to kind of cake with glue and you're missing the center part, you can take a little dowel, just poke it through, just to kind of maintain and be able to see that nicely. All right, we'll grab piece number 4, continue down the row here. Okay. And just cup the ends. So yeah, this is the 3rd item in the bundle, so I'm kind of wrapping things up, getting ready to start taking photographs and making the trailer and all that good stuff. We'll hopefully have this released. Today is April 1st, actually. I think. Is it April Fool's Day? Wow. No one's pulled a prank on me yet. So that's good. I'm just waiting for it to happen. Got a lot of jokers in the house. I walked in looking for Peyton. He was sitting on the potty. Wasn't sure if he was up yet. It was cute. He's getting to that point now. His siblings, I don't know if you guys are familiar, if you have kids or grandkids, nieces and nephews, there's this phenomenon with the young kids called skibbity toilet. And it's a very prominent thing in our household, unfortunately. And I was worried that that would frighten him from using the toilet, but Peyton is quite the Halloween connoisseur, just like his dad. It doesn't seem like anything really frightens him, so that's a good thing. Okay, so you can see how it's really just kind of a cup-shaped. All right. This one's easy. I think probably the most challenging flower of the bunch is going to be the rose, which is why I always save the most fun one for last. Just to kind of, I've been doing this for a long time, but even I sometimes feel like I just want to do things to build my confidence, and I don't do flowers very often. We try to do a bunch of different stuff to kind of keep you guys engaged, and I don't always do flowers. So, sometimes it's almost like there's certain things that stick with you, but as far as the strategy, it is something that it's almost a muscle memory, but sometimes you feel like you're starting over after it's been a while. You can imagine it's not just, we're not just crafting all day long. There's a lot of moving parts behind the scenes, coming up with concepts and drawings and all sorts of stuff. Okay, that looks good. So this is piece number 4 that I'm putting glue on. This is piece number 3 that I'm putting down now. Again, make sure you rotate and offset the petals. Make it look nice and full. And I'm going to keep doing this because I know that if I can stick my little hibachi through there, I know that I have it lined up perfectly. Let's not get it glued down. You can see all the nice layers there. And again, we can kind of fluff this up later if we need to. But so far, I think it's looking pretty sharp. And we'll keep on cruising here on the larger layers. And just cup those tips. You want each one, just kind of pretend that if you were to drop some water on these petals, the idea is that you want each one to be able to kind of hold it in place. That's when you know you've got it pretty good then. All we're really doing here is just messing with the fibers and stretching them in one direction. It's pretty interesting. I wish I could kind of see it at a microscopic level to see what was really going on in there. It's quite fascinating, I think. Okay, there we go. Applying glue to petal number 3, inserting petal number 4. Make sure I'm finding the hole there. There it is. Let's poke through there. There we go. Yeah, and it is definitely coming together here. Okay, last one of the darker pink. Okay, let's go ahead and cup these ends here. I'm not so sure that I even need to touch the very tips. I think I'm just going to focus on the sides here to get those kind of to cup in more. There we go. That was quick. All right. Put that one in there, offset those petals. Make sure I got it lined up right. There we go, looks good. Match up the center, give it a little poke ski, and press. Okay. Nice and full. Like I said, well, we can fluff this up later on, but I don't think we're gonna need to because we've got quite a few more layers to go here. Okay, so we have the dark pink portion of the peony done. Now we're gonna go over to the lighter pink portion, and the process is gonna be pretty much the same for, well, as you can see, there's 4 large petals, sets of petals, and then there's 4 smaller ones here. The smaller ones, we're gonna train those a little bit differently because once we get to that point, we're gonna want to really start cupping them in so they're a little more closed, okay? So let's just do this like good old Henry Ford and just have an assembly line here. Let's get everything trained first on these larger 4 petals. And we're just gonna do the 2 sections separately for now. These 4, we're gonna do the same thing that we did with the larger petals here. We're gonna start up here at the top or on the sides, kind of start cupping those in, and then a nice one right down the center. And that's where that's coming from. I think I actually have a, I might have like burned myself from doing this so hard. This is treacherous. Okay. And I'm just shaping those petals, just kind of trying to cup the perimeters and then a nice little line through the center. So that's piece number 8. Let's grab number 7. Do the same thing. Kind of work the outer edges of the petals and then one right down the middle. And as we get closer to that number 1, we want things to cup more and more. Okay, so I'm going to put a little bit more emphasis on the tips. I would not recommend doing this full time. Training petals. There we go. That's nice. I'll do this last one again. Okay, so, well, here's piece 8. Yep, there's piece 8. Go ahead and apply your glue. Take 7, stagger it, line that up. Okay, now we're going to do number 6, and again, trying to get it even tighter this time. So let's get the tips to kind of curl in even more. Okay. Just work those tips. There we go. That's what I'm talking about there. Okay. right, so piece 6, you can put glue on this part too. You don't have to always do it the same way. All right, line up little holes there. Make sure that you're offsetting the petals. There we go. Okay, bring those in a little bit. You can actually take this whole flower and cup the whole thing a little bit. There we go. Okay, so now we're on to piece 5. Same thing here. Focus on the tips of this. We really want to start bringing these in. Cupping the tips more and more and more as we get closer to the final 4. I know that's not a basketball reference. There we go. There we go. And these last 4, we're going to go a little bit more aggressive with the training of the tips, because we really want this to kind of start closing in on itself. Okay, go ahead and offset those petals. There we go. Give it a little poke. Keep everything nice and centered. There we go. Don't worry about the separation at this point. Not a huge deal. Okay. All right, so let's grab piece number 4 from these small ones. And here is where we're going to want to start really bringing things in, which is going to require that we kind of, well, first off, we're going to train this at the bottom from the base, lift it up about 90 degrees, run it through. Okay, and then we're also going to take the tips, press them against our dowel, and curl them in like that. Okay, like that. And it's going to get more prominent as we move on through piece number, well, it would be 3, 2, and 1. All right, so now that we've done that, we can do a little bit more with this tool. I would focus on about halfway down, just kind of curling it in. And then give that a little bit of a swirl inside. Okay, that looks about right. Go ahead and apply your glue. And putting piece number 4 in, line it up. Make sure you offset those petals. Give it a little poke. There we go. Get that to release. Press down. Okay, just make sure that they're kind of coming in a little bit more. Okay, let's find piece number 3. And we're going to start at the base, train them up just a little bit initially. Okay, and actually, you know what I'm going to start doing here? I'm going to start training them the other way, because I want that texture to be facing out. So since these are going to be curling in, I flipped it to the smooth side, and I'm training it this way now. Okay, so just like we did before, we're going to take the tips of these and kind of curl them in onto the dowel, so that they really just kind of come in. And we may need to grab a thinner dowel on the last 2 pieces to get that curve to be a little more aggressive. Okay, so let's see what that looks like. We'll take our little tool, just do some little circles inside, and you can see how it's kind of coming in like that. That's exactly what we want now, okay? And let me see here. I might stretch this out a little bit to cup this a little bit more, especially the larger petals. You want to just kind of make it almost like a ball. And I'm just going right down the centers of each of these to cup it like that. Okay. And we just have to pop that right in there. Might start getting a little tight, but that's okay. Okay, stagger those petals, center it. There we go. Okay, grab piece number 2, do the same thing. I have it flipped over now, so I'm looking at the smooth side, because as we train it up, I want to see the texture side on the outside. Okay, we're going to take the very tips of these petals, and curl them in all the way, like so. Go right out to the tip, right up to the edge of the dowel. There we go. This one's a little funky. Just curl it in. There we go. Okay. Grab your tool, do a little circle inside. Okay. Ow. And then try to cup I'm just doing strokes from the center down to cup it even more. Do all 3. And bring it in. That looks great. Okay. Throw a little glue in there. Take this piece, line it up, try to offset it. There we go. Okay, poke that through, keep everything nice and centered. And kind of bring that in a little bit more. If you need to kind of fold it at the base, that's fine. There we go. Much better. There we go. Now it's looking right. Okay. And that just leaves the last one here. Again, flipping it over. I'm going to train it first. Okay. Then we're going to curl it right at the very tips. We'll start with the thicker dowel and see if it gives us the look that we want. I may need to go to something a little thinner to get that curve a little more pronounced. I think we're going to be okay. Okay, grab your tool and just do little circles until it's literally just kind of eating it. I think that's great. That's how it should look. And then we had just enough room to put the stamen in there. So go ahead and apply your glue. Our last little piece is going in. Try to line that up with the little hole. I'm going to use my little skewer to get it centered. There we go. Let's pop that out. Okay. I'm just going to take my little tool here and push down in the center to get that whole thing to kind of come in a little more. Beautiful. Now the stamen here, okay, what we're going to do is there's this one end that has a little bit of, just it kind of extends without any stamen. We're going to start on this side here where we don't have that. You're going to take a little hibachi stick and just start wrapping this around it. And just like we did with, what was it? The rolled flowers, you want to keep the very bottom of this aligned with this straight, the straight part of this. Once you kind of got it going, you could probably remove the hibachi and just roll it onto itself. And about, I don't know, halfway through, you can start applying a little bit of glue along the very bottom of this so that it just kind of sticks to itself. Again, keep it nice and straight at the bottom. Okay. All the way down to the end. Like so. And then just press and hold that together for a second. You can take it now, just kind of flare it out a little bit. All right, now that we have the little stamen complete, go ahead and throw a little bit of glue on the bottom of it, and we'll get that right in the center of our flower. Just pop that right in the center. Try not to disrupt the beautiful petals too much. Okay, you can bring those in, just kind of tighten it up a little bit. There we go. And then you can take the lighter pink section that we just finished and pop it into the center of the darker pink. And there she is. Beautiful. Okay. And once we have the rose, the main rose complete, we can always go in and kind of finesse this a little bit more. I think we're done with the shaping tool, I believe. Here's what I have so far. The peony is going to go right there. All right, well, let's wrap it up here with our rose. I've got all of my pieces laid out here. There's 3 number 1s, 2 number 2s, 1 number 3, a number 4, and a number 5. We'll go through them all in a second here. But let's first start off with the stamen. What we're going to do is start at the shorter end. I'm going to grab a hibachi stick just to start rolling it onto itself. And again, like we did with the previous stamens, you want to just make sure that you're kind of rolling it up against itself. Try to keep it relatively tight. There could be a little bit of a gap there, that's fine. And once you have it started, kind of pushing down on the bottom, just to make sure that it stays on that plane. And just roll it. Once you kind of get it going, it'll almost roll itself. Okay. Then once you have it rolled a few times, you can go ahead and take a little bit of glue, put it along the very base of it, and then just continue rolling it. Keep it nice and level there at the bottom. There we go. Bring it all the way down to the end. Hopefully, might do a little extra drop of glue there, just to make sure that it stays put. There we go. And while you're holding it closed, you can go ahead and kind of fray it out a little bit, just to open it up ever so slightly. It's not going to be overly visible, but we didn't want to leave a gap there in the center. So we have something, okay? So we're going to start with section number 1. Now I want the texture side facing out, and this is going to be kind of tight. So I'm actually going to curl this with the smooth side facing me, so that as I do curl it, and when we bring these in, we're going to see the texture side. Now, as we progress through the assembly of this flower, we're actually going to flip it around to where well, basically what I'm trying to say is we're going to try to maintain texture throughout the entire flower as far as visibility goes. Now, for these interior sections, we kind of have to train them in the opposite way. Okay, so here's what I mean. When we bring these in, because they're going to be relatively tight, we want the texture on the outside. Now with these, because they're only going to be curled in a tiny bit, we're going to leave the texture like that. We're not going to train it the opposite way. Okay, so you're going to do that to all 3 of your number 1s. Okay, and what we might want to do too is get a little bit of a thinner dowel and just bring those corners in a little bit. The edges, the side edges. If you've ever seen a rose bud, you know that it's relatively kind of compact and tight in the center, which is what we're trying to mimic here with paper. Okay, so I just want these to be kind of coming in and relatively like extra curved in a little bit. Okay, we'll do that again with the rest of the number ones. And we'll grab one number one. We're actually going to take and glue the stamen in first, since it may be difficult to get in there later on. Okay, I think that looks good. And then roses have sort of a, especially on the inside, sort of a kind of a spiral sort of look. So we're going to keep that word in mind as we're shaping this thing, spiral. I'll show you what I mean once we get there. All right, so pick one, doesn't matter which one. Make sure that your hot glue is ready to go. I'm going to take and just put a little dot of hot glue here in the center on one of the number ones. Grab your stamen, pop it in there. Okay, so grab your hot glue. We're going to put one dot here. And we're going to put one dot on the other side, opposite side, right about there. Okay, keep that hot glue going. Bring it in. Kind of bring it in relatively tight. Just kind of picture what the center of a rose would look like. And just hold that in place. Let that hot glue take. I think I got it. If you need to kind of give it a little squeeze to help it keep its shape, totally fine. And I think my hot glue there on that one just did not take. So I'm going to go ahead and reapply right in that section there. And push that down. Okay. Give that a second to set. If you need to give it a little squeeze, that's fine. Try to maintain nice roundness in there though. There we go. Okay. Okay. So now I'm going to start on either side. I'm going to start on this side here. Put a little dot of glue right there. Give it a little swirl so that you don't get those little frillies. And then just go ahead and attach that to whatever surface it grabs, just naturally. There we go, like that. And we're, whoops. Make sure that it sets before you let it go. There we go, much better. Okay, and then grab the next one and we're just kind of going in a spiral here. Okay, so that just means that you just need to put a little bit of glue right there. You can go out to the tip of it, the very edge, I should say, not the tip. Bring that in and just kind of maintain a spiral. I'm applying pressure with this finger here while kind of leaving that alone. Okay, there we go. And then we'll grab this next one. I'm going to put this one here. So we're going to put a little bit of glue right on this side. Right up to the very edge of the petal. Bring that in. Just try to maintain a little bit of separation between the petals there. Like that. And then this one's going to go in like this. So there's going to only need glue on one side of it. It's already shaped. Okay, so bring that in. And there's a beautiful little bud. Okay, so you see what we're doing there. Perfect. It should stand up nicely, relatively. Cool. All right, I'm going to grab this next piece. This one's going to go right in the center. So let's go ahead and put some glue in the middle there. And pop that in. Make sure it's good and centered. Perfect. Now we're talking. Okay. And then just grab one and just kind of visualize how it's going to look and where you need to put the glue. This one's going to take some glue right there. And we should pretty much be, since we're going to be going clockwise here, we're going to be putting glue pretty much on the same petal or same side of the petal each time. And just try to maintain that nice separation as we go. Okay, so here this one here, I'm going to put glue on this side. Right there. Just be very careful with your glue so you don't get it all over the place. There we go. Just hold that. Perfect. Now this one here, I'm going to put glue on this one, so we're alternating at this point. Just very gently. I'm really digging this this glue gun that I found, this cordless one. The tip is nice and fine. I think that's what I really like about it. Okay, I'm going to grab this next petal, and this one can go either way. I'm going to put it on this side. Feels more natural based on how it's sitting. There we go, and it's opening up ever so slightly. Okay, hold that in place while it sets. Here we go. I'm going to put glue on this side here, on the opposite side. Nice and easy. And opening up even more now. Just a tiny bit. Just hold that down. Okay, I'm going to close this up now. I'm going to put glue on this side closest to me. I think the coffee's finally kicking in. Okay, opening up even more now. Little by little. Okay, all right, so 2 sections done. Again, this is probably the most well, challenging, I guess you could say. Not really difficult, just a little challenging. Okay, let's grab this, pop it in the center. And we're going to keep on cruising here. Okay. Find the next petal that feels natural. I'm going to go with this one here. And put a little bit of glue right there. Right on the tip and the edge. Go ahead and pop that in place, hold it. Okay, I'm going to go this way now. And I'm going to apply my glue to this petal. Okay, moving along here. I'm going to grab this petal. And that's the first one that sort of, this side is the first side that makes contact, so that's where I'm going to place my glue, right there. And press that into place. You can see slowly opening up. Maintain that pressure there. We'll get this one here. I'm going to go on that side again. Now, I don't know how long this thing will stay warm outside of its little holster. Still kind of getting used to using this. Maybe we'll see how long we can go. Okay, here we go. And just naturally kind of shaping it as you go. Now on this one here, I'm going to put one here. And kind of sort of intuitive as far as where it needs to go and where you need to put the glue. But again, just try to visually kind of watch it open up, and I'm going to put the glue on this one here. And actually on this one you could probably do a little bit on both sides just to kind of keep it closed. There we go. That is a very nice shape. I'm actually pretty proud of how this one turned out. Look at that. Okay, cool. So we're going to move on to piece number 2. Okay, and with piece number 2, move that off to the side for a second. What we're going to do is we're going to curl these up, okay, to help kind of close it up, is kind of curl the sides in a little bit as well. Okay. There we go. And let's find a little bit of a thinner dowel. Kind of train just the very base of it right at the section where it meets the little circle in the center. Cup it in a little bit. Okay, let's take a look. Okay, that looks good. And we are gonna do some more hot gluing here. So go ahead and put a little bit of glue in the center of number 2. And let's get this main little flower attached. Okay. And I'm going to do a little bit more curling here, kind of like we did for the first set. So we're not quite ready for it to completely sprawl out yet. There we go. Okay, and you can see here, basically the same thing. I'm going to start pretty much wherever you want. Like this one here, I'm going to put a little bit of glue right on the edge of that side of the petal. Bring that in like so. And then we're just going to work our way around, either clockwise or counterclockwise, whatever feels most comfortable for you. Whatever the flower is telling you to do. Okay, bring that in and attach. Okay, let's take a look at this next one. I'm going to glue this one here. Just kind of going back and forth. And I'm sure we've all seen a ton of roses in our days. It's almost like second nature that we know what it looks like and what it should look like and how to shape it. Okay, putting a little bit of glue there. There we go. Now this one, I'm going to put glue on this side. Bring that in and press and hold. There we go. We'll close this one up just like we did the first time. I'm going to put glue on both sides just to lock it in. Okay, looking pretty sharp. Okay. All right, now, let me see here. You know what, you can throw a little tiny bit of glue behind this petal here, just to tighten it up a little bit. There we go. Okay. All right, let's grab the next piece, number 2, and again, I'm going to train these up. I'm going to curl these in again. You can just kind of wrap it around the dowel. Okay, go ahead and throw a little bit of glue in the center of this next number 2. Put that back on the charger for a second. Get that nice and centered. And you can see here that naturally it is just kind of flaring out. I'm going to get rid of some of this excess hot glue that's kind of poking out, and we'll let me grab a different petal here. We'll start here. Put a little glue on this one. Right about there. Whoops. Now this thing's starting to go out of control on me. I don't know why. Okay, I'm going to put a little bit of glue here. I think this thing's just too hot right now, actually. And bring that in. There we go. Got a little bit on that adjacent petal, but yeah, see, just slowly building it out. I'm going to go ahead and put glue right here. That was already outside of the glue gun. There we go. Okay. I'm going to curl. Hold on a second there, buddy. I'm going to curl this in a little bit more. It's just not making good contact anywhere. I think I'm going to put glue on both of these. So you're going to have to kind of feel it out. And as you bring each petal in, see if it's making enough contact on one side to kind of keep everything in place. Okay. For this one here, I think it makes the most sense to put a little bit of glue there. Come on. Get out of there. Okay, and again, I just want to start kind of flaring it out more and more. These last 3 are going to be less compact, I guess you could say. This thing is just being a pain right now. Okay. Okay. With number 3 here, what we're going to do is we're going to focus mostly on just curling these petals in and out. So you can do these in, you can do some of these out, you can do a little bit of both. Whatever you want to do. Just need to kind of curl them, give them a little bit of interest. Okay. Then go to the base and just lift them up ever so slightly. I'm just placing each petal between my finger and the dowel, lifting it up about 45 degrees and just moving it about 1/2 inch, just to kind of get it to curl upward a little bit. Okay, so you can see what's happening there. Looking like that. And maybe a little bit more, just at the base. Just curl it up, so it's still kind of cupping the rest of the flower. We don't want too much separation there. That looks great. Okay, so and then we don't need to do anything else with this at this point. I just need to, I'm gonna go with my regular glue here because my glue gun is acting wonky. And you wanna offset these. So you wanna stagger them a little bit. There we go. Make sure it's nice and centered on the bottom. Okay, let's go to piece number 4. And just like we did, go ahead and curl the tips up and down and down and up, however you want to do it. You can kind of do it at an angle too. We'll do this one down at an angle up here, bring this up here, up and down, like that. And go to the base here and just kind of curl it upward. Kind of sort of cupping. Okay, let's take a look. We'll bring it in a little bit. Don't forget to offset the petals. Beautiful. Okay. So don't put the petals right on top of each other. Rotate it just a tiny bit to stagger those petals to make it look more full. A beautiful rose. Probably one of my best, actually. I love that. Okay, last one. And pretty much done here. I don't know why I did that. Go ahead and curl, curl, curl down, curl up, curl angled, however you want to do it. Make that one more pronounced, make that one more subtle. However you want to do it. Okay, and then just go up right at the base where the petal meets the little round part and just push that dowel through, kind of cupping the petals up like that. One more here maybe. There we go. Get your glue. This is piece number 5, I think. And let's offset those petals. Get that nice and centered. And I could probably do a little bit better on the offset. There we go. That looks nice. Get that a little more centered. And there it is. A beautiful rose. That's almost too perfect. Okay. So all that's left now is to figure out where we're going to place all these, how we're going to place them, and just get everything glued into its final spot. Okay, so we're going to start off with the flattest flower, okay, which is the anemone here. And I'm just going to put a little dot of glue, hot glue, right on the bottom. There we go. And you want to pop this right over here. You can kind of go right about there. Pardon my head. Let's get our peony anchored. Throw a little bit of glue on the bottom of that. And you want to just cover this up, this little green patch up here, just enough to where you can still see it. Like that. Okay, let's put the rose in place. And it should fit that right onto that little round section. Almost looks like a little circle there. Perfect. Okay. Now what we might need to do here, depending on how things work out, we might need to take a few of the petals from the rose and kind of tuck them under the peony. Okay. Oh, by the way, before we do that, this little guy here, you'll see that there's a little set of markers right there for this little additional piece. I was just made aware that we actually incorporated markers for it. You want to glue that in place first. Okay. So as I was saying, with the rose, you might need to take and tuck a couple of the rose petals underneath the peony. You can bring this down to cover up these leaves ever so slightly. Okay, before we fully commit here, just want to make sure that everything is looking nice and full. I think that looks great. Yeah, that'll look nice. Perfect. Okay, cool. All right, so let's go to the rose. I'm going to leave a few of those little petals just kind of flatter so I can tuck them under the peony so they're not fighting for space here. Tuck those 3 under there. And give that a little bit of room there. Can flatten that out a bit. I don't want to cover up the anemone too much. Don't want the anemone to be an enemy. Okay, take our dahlia. I'm going to pop the dahlia right in here. Make sure that you leave just enough room on each side for those little rolled roses. Okay, let's throw a little bit of glue on the bottom of the dahlia. And just kind of tuck that under, tuck it in. Don't crowd the rose too much. Okay, cool. That looks nice. And that's going to go right here. I'm going to tuck that rose in there. And then we just have one more rose to put in place. Let me bring this over here. Might want to, there we go. Perfect. And then our last one's going to go right here, like so. Might need to kind of ram it in there a bit, not too much. And shadow box is pretty much done. Perfect. Look at that. Gorgeous. Well, that is it. I just popped it into my 9x9 shadow box, and I am beyond happy with how that turned out. It is stunning. So that's going to do it for this one. Hope you guys enjoyed the video. If you did, please visit us on our YouTube channel. Hit that subscribe button. While you're there, hit the little bell so you get notifications anytime we release a new project, whether it be paid or free. And if you make this or anything from our, what is it called? Spring blessings? I don't know, I've been crafting so much, I forgot. But anyway, if you make anything from this bundle, I'd love to see it, and so would the rest of our community. So head over to your Facebook, do a search for Dreaming Tree Official. That's where you'll find myself and over 40,000 of our closest crafty friends. So happy spring. Hope you enjoyed the video. And as always, look forward to crafting with you again. Hey, thanks for crafting along with me. I hope you enjoyed this video. If you did, check out some of our other videos and please consider hitting that subscribe button. Also, don't forget to visit our site and check out our free SVG section where you'll find over 140 free SVG files complete with assembly tutorials. I'll see you in the craft room.